I tell you, if you're in that WWE women's locker room and you see you're about to have a match with Kairi Sane, just take the day off. Because Kairi is racking them up right now, man. It's Home Alone 2 all over again. When McAllister is trying to get off the crazy New York City streets, he jumps in a cab and he says, "It's crazy out there." And the cab driver turns around to McAllister and he says, "It ain't much better in here, kid." And he jumps out of the cab and he runs. It ain't much better over here if you're taking on little Kairi Sane. I know she's 5'1", tops. $115, $120 in pounds, tops. But it ain't much better over there if you think you're going to have an easy day, because there's some type of mojo right now around Kairi. A force field, a shield. And if these gals try to touch Kairi, they're being zapped and put on the shelf. Liv Morgan last night, and routine. It's not even Kairi's fault. She just doesn't have to do much. The match just began, a routine takedown, and Liv landed awkwardly on her elbow, popped her shoulder right out of socket. Match over. Liv is on the shelf. We wish Liv Morgan all the best. If it's a non-severe pop-out, she could be back within 6 to 8 weeks, actually. I know you're not thinking, you think in terms of months, but I've seen dislocated shoulders in athletes, and they're back in 6 to 8 weeks. If it's not too severe. If it is a little bit worse off, it could be 6 to 8 months. And that sucks because Liv Morgan has been on a roll lately. Momentum on top of momentum. A current tag team champion of, yes, an irrelevant, non-existent division, but a champion nonetheless. A big matchup coming up at Evolution with the returning Bella Twins, or at least that's what we believed. Match was being set up with Io Sky. In fact, Liv Morgan for Io's championship. And Liv Morgan started Raw last night. That coveted beginning segment. They trusted Liv Morgan and Io with that coveted beginning of Raw segment. That's how much momentum and mojo right now Liv Morgan has. And she's been put on the shelf, unfortunately. For at least, bare minimum, weeks, most likely months. She's going to miss Evolution. She's going to miss that big matchup with Io next week, obviously, for the title, or whenever that was supposed to be. That's why they say it's not ballet. And that absolutely sucks because of the momentum that Liv had, especially, oh, man. And this is coming off just a few weeks after Zoe Stark tried to get one in on little Kairi. And Zoe snapped her leg in half. Again, I still don't even blame Kairi for that. A lot of people saying she was grossly out of place. But you could also say Zoe still can't jump the shark in that instance. You still have to wait. Although I've seen Kairi hit that maneuver from that distance. So I think Zoe was saying whether Kairi is turned around or not, she getting this drop kick. So Kairi went for it, or Zoe went for it no matter what. So you could look at it both ways. So I didn't blame anybody in that instance. But last night for sure was not Kairi's fault. You can watch it a dozen times. It was a simplistic routine takedown. Morgan just lands on her elbow, pops her shoulder out of socket. Dislocated shoulder. But Kairi, man, she has turned into Killer Kairi. And she doesn't even have to do much. These ladies are trying to get one in on her, and they're just dropping like flies, brah. There's some mojo force field right now around Kairi. Pew, pew, pew. Like they're running full speed, and they hit like this imaginary wall, and Nia Jax is bouncing off. Jade Cargill's bouncing off into the third row. It's funny, man. But what's not funny is, Liv Morgan, with all she had going for her right now on the IR, man, on the injured reserved list. So again, we wish Liv all the best. So that was a big story coming out of last night. The bell had just begun. The match just started. 20 seconds later, it was called off. Liv was being carried off by the Docs. We wish her the best. Also last night, Raw 6/16/25. A couple of returns. Asuka returned last night. Could she overcome Stephanie V in her Fatal 4 Queen of the Ring tournament matchup? That was the big question. It's either going to go to Stephanie or the returning Asuka. Right? It was going to go to one of them. And if it goes to who we believe it is, Asuka, because she's just coming back, how do you have Stephanie V take this L? Clearly, she won't be the one looking up at the lights. That would be Ivy Nile or Raquel Rodriguez. I understand. But the record will still show an L after Stephanie's name for this match. So you got to be careful how she takes this. So what did they decide? Did they go Stephanie V for the W or did they go with Asuka? We'll talk about it. And for the men in the King of the Ring tournament, their Fatal 4. Obviously, Yiederman was always going to win that because he lost the title to Gunther last week. The company usually likes to give you a consolation prize for your next at-bat. So his next matchup was this. They give him the King of the Ring tournament victory for this Fatal 4-Way. We never doubted that, especially with who was in this matchup. We did a little live stream for my channel members last night before Raw, and I said that Rusev and Sheamus were most likely going to cancel one another out. They'll just beat each other up. King of the Ring will be secondary in their minds. And that's what happened. They canceled one another out. And I also said that if you look at the Bronson Reed, how could I forget? It was Bronson Reed as the fourth guy. You got Paul Heyman out there with the Money in the Bank briefcase. There's just one issue. Bronson Reed did not win that briefcase. He does not possess a contract for a championship opportunity. But they want that rub, right? Because he's associated with Seth. And they want you to look at Bronson and see that shiny briefcase in Paul Heyman's arms. Again, you talk smoke and mirrors. If you need a briefcase that Bronson didn't even win to try to get this guy over, yeah, maybe you're not booking him correctly. You still have him in a group that has no name. They have no distinct music. You're still coming out the Sethington sing-along. They have no distinct music. I still believe they have no name. They have nothing. And then you wonder why most fans look at this group as irrelevant. You can change the channel when they're out there. Anyway, that's another story. Sheamus and Rusev were going to cancel one another out. You pretty much knew when you saw Bronson in this match that La Knight was going to show up, and La Knight was going to cost Bronson, and this would leave the door open for Yiederman, Jason Uso, to take the W, and that's pretty much what happened. But it's what happened during, especially the finish of this match and post-match. If you want to talk overbooked, we're going to talk about it. Reminds me of like the fireworks, right? If you ever go to a fireworks show, half an hour, 45 minutes, and, you got a firework over here, some fireworks over there. Billy Goldberg came back. Oh, Asuka's back. Oh, Karrion Kross with a nice backstage, a little firework here, and then all of a sudden at the very end, it's the climax of the show, the grand finale. I mean, they were just throwing wrestlers out there left and right, even if it didn't make sense. They could be on SmackDown. They didn't care. La Knight, Cody Rhodes with full theme music and in his wrestling gear. Cody Rhodes, he's not even on the Raw roster. Well, you could say, BC, it's the King of the Ring. That's the explanation. So all the wrestlers are showing up. Now we're treating this like a traditional 5-on-5 Raw versus SmackDown Survivor Series match. That I can see. Sometimes with the Royal Rumble. King of the Ring? Now you can just jump over? And if that's the case, what's the excuse for LA Knight? He's not in this tournament. He already lost that. Well, he was seeking the revenge, BC, so he did that last week, though. Wouldn't you beef up some security if the dude just did it last week? There's no explanation. They're just letting people... that's what I mean. My bar is higher, yes. My standards are higher because I've watched long enough to know that this company could, if they choose, they could put in more effort. They could care more about what's being presented in their television show. They choose not to. It shouldn't take BC, man. It shouldn't take a podcaster to just be like, hey, well, you forgot to put in this detail. You forgot to mention this. You forgot to give an explanation for this. There's no reason we should be doing that. As fans or as critics, there's no reason. The company should be doing that so we don't have to ask those questions or be confused or think, that doesn't make sense. But it is what it is. They made this like the grand finale at the fireworks, and they just brought out everybody. Sami Zayn's out there. Penta's out there. Cody Rhodes is out there. LA Knight's out there. Throw Sethington out there. I like overbooked. Usually I like when these things are done. Again, that's why if you're not going to honor the brand split, just do away with the brand split once and for all. They have a shakeup coming up soon. Another draft or a shakeup. Just stop. If Helmsley is now fully admitting that he cannot create Not for a separate Raw, not for a separate SmackDown. And he needs all hands on deck. Then just do away with the brand split. Admit defeat, take the L, and just have the roster as one. Because it's clear he needs everybody to even try to produce a decent show or anything worth talking about. That's the truth. We saw that last night. So just do away with the brand split. And I'll be fine with that finish. But we'll talk about it. Big night for Asuka and Yeaterman. But there's no way Yeaterman can defeat Cody, right? Right? And there's no way that Yeaterman, this was all just for Yeaterman to get his title back, right? No. Last week was a huge, resounding statement that was put out by WWE. You know, we understand that business is kind of going backwards since we put the title on Jason Uso. Not solely blaming Jason Uso. I don't think the company would do that. But it is. The ratings, even the merchandise, everything's going backwards. So they had to take that title off. Now, last night in the live stream we did, which is available for channel members on the channel right now, we talked about Rikishi, Papa Yeet Master. And Papa Yeet is not happy with Papa H. He's even saying dude should be fired. If you can't do the job, all the best on your future endeavors. We talked all about it. I gave you guys an exact quote. If you didn't see that, become a channel member. Check it out. It's in the live stream category, available for channel members right now. We talk all about it. But as much as I do agree, Helmsley should not be in that position because he cannot do that job, unfortunately. But what I will say is that it was the right call, because just because you made the mistake and you put the title on Uso to begin with, when he should have been just the IC champion at best, nothing wrong with that. You could still get all the yeets, sell some extra t-shirts, dance with all the kids in Section 305, do what you got to do. But not a world championship, because I told you guys, when he won the Rumble, I told you this was going to happen. Ratings were going to go backwards. People like LA Knight, Roman Reigns, who hasn't even been around in months, Cody Rhodes, John Cena, they were all going to beat him in merchandise. And that's what happened. Those yeet shirts, most of the time, was in the 3, 4, and even 5 position, several weeks outside of the top 5. That's what's happened since the Rumble, when everybody tries to tell you he's selling all this merchandise. So Rikishi, Papa Yeet, he was not happy, but that's what had to happen. They made a bold move. Helmsley said, I'm going to put the rocket on you, kid. And he did that. And here we are 51 days later, and he said, I got to take the rocket off you, or at least a piece of it. Like the part that has the title, I got to take that back. I don't blame Helmsley at all for that. He had to do that. Because that didn't work. It was a failed experiment. He's really good in tag teams. If you want him in the mid-card, holding a mid-card championship like an IC or a US, whatever, no harm, no foul. But when you're playing with the big boys, you got to hang with them. And he couldn't. Keish himself, who's pissed off at H for taking it off of him in 51 days, he said himself when they were at a family dinner that Jey Uso was exhausted. We saw Jey Uso almost landing on his head every time he tried to jump over the top rope. He was flubbing his lines on the microphone. The dude couldn't handle the pressure of being world champ. I said in last night's stream, some people were destined for the main event. Some people were destined to just call themselves the main event. There's no issue with either, just know which one and which side you're on. So I don't see how this could lead back to Jason Yeaterman getting back that championship. When numbers are showing you they're going backwards in droves. It's time to move on. You got to put that world title on people that can handle that. You feel bad, man, to watch Jey Uso, and ever since he had this singles run, you feel bad. He has diminished. In the ring, his skills have diminished. You saw him in the match last night. It was sad. A lot of those super kicks were barely getting past the midsection of the opponent. Instead of going over the top rope, you see what he does now? He does the suicide dives. He does the dives through the ropes. That's for the best. He's winded. His cardio's never been the greatest, but he's winded all the time. He's winded after he cuts 2 lines or he starts dancing. You guys know, man, if you're a big Jey Uso fan, then you should care about him. And if you care about him, taking the title off of him is the first step to getting the best of a Jey Uso that we can get. Those are the facts, man. And I know it's tough, especially for the kiddies that drag out their parents. They spend an outrageous amount of money to show up to these shows to dance. It's tough to hear. I know. Your hero dropped his title in 51 days. But you got to remember, your audience out there, not everybody's going to be 10 or 12. Over 70% of your audience is actually over the age of 18. Can't do this anymore. You couldn't do this for another 51 days. So again, the question now is, where do you go when Yetterman takes on Cody? The show ended with mutual respect. But one of them's got to be looking up at the lights when it's all said and done. But it can't just be... Would that be a huge consolation prize? King Yetterman? You also don't need King Cody, but you could see that, right? He used to have a throne. Remember when he was trashing Hunter Helmsley in AEW and he shattered the throne? Anyway, believe it or not, that was all the cold open teaser, man. I guess I had a lot to say. I had a lot of cool. This is my fourth coffee already. This one is a Folgers with some Dunkin' Extra cream sugar, so a little bit of a mix. Anyway, let's get into it, man. Let's get into the actual show itself. This is the Raw review, 6/16/25, which kicked off with Liv Morgan and Io Sky. I'm going to say that again. The show started with Io and Liv Morgan. You're thinking, what? That's supposed to get people excited for the next 2.5 hours? I know a lot of you guys don't watch the show. You just listen to BC's review. I appreciate you guys, man, for making this channel your number one stop for all things pro wrestling. So you're probably thinking, if you didn't see the show, something major must have happened for them to start this show. Well, not quite. I wish I could tell you something major happened, but all that happened, guys, is they just set up a future match between the two. That's literally all that happened. And Liv said, well, when we do face each other, it's going to be for the title. Io said some words, right? Her English is getting better, but it's still chopped up. So it doesn't get the reaction that it probably would have if the English is better. And that's unfortunate because Io is one of the best wrestlers on the planet. If she could cut those flawless promos, there's no ceiling for Io. But unfortunately, when you do have a language barrier in the States anyway, it's a huge obstacle. But Io did her best. Liv Morgan did hers, and that was pretty much it, man. I can't tell you that anything memorable happened. You'd go back and listen or watch this. It was a very odd way to start the show. You could have put this in the middle of the show or at the end of hour 1 and saved the Liv Kairi match for end of hour 2. It was a weird way, man. You want to start the show with a massive storyline that you're going to keep going back to. And at the very end of the night, it's a massive cliffhanger to get you to next week. And if you're doing it correctly, it makes you want to pull out your wallet and get the next PLE or get the streaming service that it's on. Or, that's how the company is supposed to make their money. Hook you, draw you in with the shows, take your money for the PLE pay-per-view. This was not a major story. Io versus Liv. Okay. You could put that in the middle of the show, man. Just very odd. Very odd choice. And big for Liv Morgan and Io to start the show. I always say the start of the show is just as important as the end of the show. So it's big for them. And again, this is what makes it all the more just makes it suck even more that Liv Morgan got injured, because they were giving her some prime segments now. And then we went into the first matchup of the night. This was the Fatal 4-Way Queen of the Ring tournament match. Asuka versus Stephanie V versus Ivy Nile versus Raquel Rodriguez. You know what I mean? I'm getting better at that. Well, Jacob Fatu. I don't know if I can say Raquel Rodriguez and not roll my R's. Some people can't roll their R's. Some people can't. They can't snap. Some people can't even whistle. Yeah, a lot of people take all those things for granted. Some people can't do those things, man. I can't say Rhea Ripley. Raquel Rodriguez without rolling those R's. Anyway, let's get back on track. Rhea Ripley, speaking of, Ripley would attack Rodriguez. That's pretty much all they have for those two. It's kind of like what you saw in the men's King of the Ring tournament match last night. That Fatal 4. It's just run-ins. They don't want to they don't want to give the effort to put in a real fun story with things happening in the feud that you're going to remember and outside the box. It's just one run-in after the other and just keep everything in the ring or around the ring, and that's it. Easy peasy, as Asuka would say, right? Creative doesn't have to get creative. Show goes off the air. We fulfilled our commitments. We made our money. Let's go on to the next town. Sucks, but that's what you got. Rhea Ripley just shows up, takes out Raquel Rodriguez. Asuka would subsequently pin Raquel for the W and a tournament advancement position. That's right. She moves on to the next round. Is this the semi? I don't know. So anyway, they gave it to Asuka. That was the question. Are they going to have Asuka lose on her first night back? Not literally be the one to look up at the lights, but Ivy or Raquel, obviously. But Asuka loses in the process. Or were they going to have a massive L for Stephanie? And that's what happened. Stephanie didn't look up at the lights, but the record book is going to show her taking this L in this match as well. She was in it. So it's a big L for Stephanie. That's what I meant. Like, no matter who took this L, it was going to be massive, man. Asuka and Stephanie both couldn't afford this loss. I understand it's not devastating. Because, again, Stephanie didn't factor into the actual pinfall, but it's still big, man. Stephanie was in this match and couldn't come up with that W. Even if it's subconscious, it takes a hit. Post-match, Asuka had an in-ring interview. I think this was with Jackie Redmond. Sound advice for the E. In the future, if you're having Io and Asuka cut promos or do interviews like back-to-back, spread it out. Sound advice. I'm just going to leave it at that. All the best to Asuka and Io. I love those ladies. You guys know that. Io is just one of the best I've ever seen do this thing for the ladies. And Asuka, we know, man. Queen of strong style, if you will. But when you put them on the mic back to back, I don't know. Is that the best decision to be made? No. Gunther in ring promo ends hour number 1. He calls out Sethington Rollins, but instead he gets Billy Goldenberg. The music hits, a welcoming reaction from the greenest of all the bays over there in Wisconsin. The Berg tells Gunther he's proud of him, but a few months ago he started something in Atlanta, Georgia. Now Goldberg vows to end it in Atlanta because Gunther is next. Look. This may be a hot take. You're probably not expecting BC to say this, but I'm going to. So, it sounded like Billy Goldberg out there, man. It looked like good old Billy Goldenberg out there. It was the same old amplified animal Billy Goldberg out there. But once the bell rings on July 12th, Saturday night's main event, it's Billy Goldenberg out there. That's the problem. Right? It sounded, it looked, it felt like Bill Goldberg last night. You kind of look at him and you're like, yeah, he can still rock out. But when the bell rings on the 12th of July, Saturday night's main event, because that's what the match is set for, is made official, Gunther versus Goldenberg. You're getting Bill Goldberg. That's the problem. He's always been bells and whistles. That's not even shade. I'm deep down. I don't know if he's ever admitted it or not, but Goldenberg knows he's bells and whistles. He's not he's not a wrestler that you're going to see go 25, 30 minutes in a classic with AJ Styles anytime soon. He's not going to go out there and put on some type of 5-star Shabazz with Shawn Michaels. It's never been his style. And you don't need to, by the way. But if you are going to be one of those kind of attractions, there has to be a level to that as well. Even Ultimate Warrior, for instance, I'll just give you a for instance. Ultimate Warrior could go out there and actually give you really good matches. People don't think that. He's just an attraction. Go out there, he was sloppy in the ring, a little extra physical at times, and that's why his matches are 2 minutes. What they won't tell you is go back and watch Warrior Hogan from Mania 6. I probably watched that match 1,000 times. It's good. You know what I watched even more? Savage Warrior, Mania 7. Even better. Such a good match. Career-ending match. Careers were on the line. Whoever loses, they lose their career. Macho Man Randy Savage versus Ultimate Warrior. Warrior had good matches. Him and Rick Rude had a couple. Goldberg, I can't remember too many actually good matchups with Goldberg. He is the kick, he's the spear, he's the jackhammer. Perhaps more notable than anything is when he knocks himself out. That's what he's most known for. He hits his head on the door, knocks himself out, goes to the ring half with it. The problem now is you're talking about a 50-some-odd-year-old dude who has said himself recently he's working with one arm and one leg. I mean, that's what you get. You're getting Bill Goldberg that we used to get, which was not all that good in the ring, but now he's even more compromised. Now he's got one leg and one. That's what he said. His own words is he's been training around his right shoulder, one of his shoulders, because he hasn't been able to use it in 5 years, basically. That's what he said. And then he also said he's working around his leg because his knees, who knows, popped off. He's working around a leg and an arm. And he's supposed to go in there with Gunther. How? How is that going to be pulled off? You talk smoke and mirrors, bells and whistles. You're going to have all of that, even if this match is only 2 to 3 minutes at Saturday night's main event, July 12th. That's my problem with this. Looks it, feels it, great. Have the music play, maybe sell some Goldberg merch. Is putting him out there with Gunther on the 12th of July the best scenario for the fans, the company, and Goldberg and Gunther? I'm leaning toward no. I don't see how this helps Gunther. I don't see how this is going to benefit Goldberg in the long run. Maybe he walks out with no arms and a half a leg. Who knows? It's not good, though. And the fans, what are we going to get? Is this going to be fun? Is this going to be booked correctly? Is this going to have a lot of excitement? Is it going to live up to any little hype that it is trying to build? These are questions that, fans have concerns about, man. Billy Goldberg, we can't keep doing this every year. At least now they're calling this the retirement match. Until what? WWE needs to make another quick buck? And they can't bring back Batista and John Cena said no? What about Goldberg again? And Goldberg will be right there to cash in another check. Trust me. You want me to go to Saudi? One time only, out of retirement. He goes to Saudi, he collects $1 million. That's what Goldberg gets. So I don't buy that it's a retirement match at all. If WWE wants to have Goldberg come in for a quick mill so Saudi Arabia will be happy with another big name, they'll do it, trust me. And we'll sit back and we'll watch another 90-second Goldberg match. And how those 90 seconds come out to be depends on how much he knocks himself out before the match on the door. There's things we love about Goldberg, the intensity, the amplification, the music, the pomp and circumstance. I get it. But when the bell rings, at this age especially, that matchup he had with The Undertaker, with or without the knocking himself out before the match, in Saudi, mind you, that should have been a tall tale sign. That's it. Taker was pissed. He almost dropped Taker on his dome piece 3 times. Goldberg shouldn't be in a match more than 2 minutes. Anyway, you want an amplified review of something, that's as honest as you're going to get. There's a big part of me, you hear the music and you're like, yeah, a superstar. Like, that's the feeling of a super. The music hits, he's amplified. You miss that. Not a lot of wrestlers have that today. But you're quickly reminded what it's leading to. And sometimes, as hard as it is for a fan, because you want that feeling, you want to see Goldberg 50-some-odd, 60-some-odd. Let the music hit and let Goldberg spear somebody. As wrestling fans, we always say that. But there comes a time when a wrestler is so when he's telling you, Goldberg has said he's got one arm and one leg, basically. That's what he's training around. If you're training around 2 out of your 4 limbs, what are you going to do in the ring? And how is that fair to your opponent? You could greatly injure your opponent or put him in a bad position. Can't just think about yourselves in these scenarios. Goldberg, I would say that too, in the company who's trying to make a buck out of him. Goldberg in Atlanta. Oh, the shirts are going to sell. Anyway, that's my thoughts on Billy Goldberg's. Hey, that was a big story in the wrestling world for the last couple of months because we knew it was happening. It was a big story coming out last night, so we had to spend a little extra time on that. That's how we ended hour one. Well, we started hour number 2. AJ Styles versus McDonald's. Okay. Random. AJ Styles defeats McDonald's to start hour 2. The win comes off a Styles clash. Dirty gets dropped in the process. So this was all just to kind of set up AJ Styles, Dirty Dominic Mysterio IC Championship. So they did it. They're trying to build that story in the least of creative ways, to use the least energy and effort imaginable. Just throw Styles in there with Dirty Dom's buddy, McDonald's. Awesome. And I'm supposed to do what on this review? Tell you how amazing this segment was? Pop off on all the positivity from this segment? No, I'm not going to do that. This is not creative. There was no effort put into this. It was below average for a 2.5 to 3 hour television show. Do better. Bayley promo was next. This made 0 sense. She's upset with Lynch because she replaced her at Mania. Just one issue with that. It wasn't Lynch's decision. They're acting like there was some story that was set up and Becky replaced Bayley through this storyline. Becky was the one that popped off on Bayley, even though that was a big story. Remember, Helmsley was taking a lot of heat because people were pissed off that he took Bayley out. Helmsley said she'll be fine. She'll be fine. This was a decision that we made. It wasn't even known too far in advance, obviously. Helmsley does nothing too far in advance. So he just brought back Becky and popped off on Bayley. Said, hey, we're going to put you at catering or even go home for a few weeks or months. When you come back, we'll put you back in something prominent. And Bayley was actually pissed. And Helmsley told everybody it was his decision, absolutely. But don't worry, Bayley will be fine. That's what he said at the media scrum. My point is, right, they're trying to act now like this was all a storyline. So Bayley came back because she's upset with Becky, but we already know because this company nonstop pulls back the curtain and exposes the business. They're constantly telling you the behind-the-scenes workings of it all. So they've already ruined their own supposed story going forward. We all know it wasn't Becky who decided for herself to replace Bayley. So anyway, she's coming out and she's pissed off that Lynch replaced her when it was a certain chief content officer. Becky Lynch does come out in a Bears jacket, mind you, says Bayley is okay playing second best like the Green Bay Packers. If you're new to the channel, BC's a big Packers fan. I didn't appreciate that much. Becky smacks Bayley, but Bayley punches Becky. So you bring your slap and I'll raise you a punch is what Bayley said. Becky drops right where she stood like a stack of bricks. And then she rolls out of the ring. And that's the segment. And then I think it's next week, Columbus, Ohio for Monday Night Raw. I think that's where you're going to get Bayley versus Becky for their IC Championship title match. Okay, this is the 86th time that they faced one another. And I don't see Bayley winning this title. Becky just got the title. Becky just got that title. Was it literally just give it right to Bayley? You talk about transitional champion. You talk about a stepping stone. You can't just do it a couple weeks later just to give it to Bayley. Because let's be honest, you can love Bayley. That could be your favorite wrestler on the planet. What is her getting an IC championship going to do for her booking? That's what needs to be focused on. Not putting titles on her shoulder. Because that's going to make Helmsley even more go, all right, she's good. She's got a title. I don't need to do anything for her. No, she needs creative right now. Bayley needs to be relevant again. Bayley still has something left in her. Has she dropped back many steps from where she started years ago? Yes. Bayley is not where she once was. And I don't think she will be able to get that back. There's been injuries, a little bit older now. It happens. It's not the same Bayley. You're not going to get takeover matches with Sasha Banks again. Nothing to that caliber. But she's definitely not a shell of what she once was. There's still good years left, good matches left. But you got to meet her halfway with a good creative. Book her correctly. Don't throw some titles on her and push her to the side. Because titles, in a lot of cases, if you're not going to book them properly afterwards, the titles are just going to weigh them down, not propel them. You throw an IC title on Bayley next week. Watch what happens. She'll be weighed down even more. It's not going to propel her. So Becky's got to walk out with this title. So how do you have Bayley save face? This is what I mean, man. You put yourself in weird positions where you don't have to be in that pickle. You don't have to back yourself into a corner. But again, this all started with just the story came from, you replaced me at Mania. Too late. Helmsley already said it was him. Obviously, you can't just put yourself in matches at WrestleMania. So obviously we knew how this, just weird. You replaced me at Mania. I need your IC title. At least BC, at least they're trying. I mean, that's the only semblance of why Bayley would attack her. Yeah, I hear that. Just wish it made more sense. But don't I say that all the time? That's the fucking, that's the whole, like a broken record, what we say about this company could be summed up in how many words is that, right? Make it make sense. 4 words. 4 words, 1 sentence. Make it make sense. Up next, this was, man, this sucks for Liv Morgan. This was Kairi Sane versus Liv Morgan. Kairi versus Liv. Match was stopped after just 20 seconds. Liv Morgan was legit injured. Looked like she dislocated her shoulder afterwards. That's what was announced. This was routine. This was not Kairi's fault. You can go back and watch simplistic takedown. Liv didn't really do much wrong either. She landed on her elbow, and unfortunately, it just is the right spot, and it popped out her shoulder. Liv immediately rolls out of the ring. Docs check on Liv. We go to commercial break. When we come back, Michael Cole and Corey Graves. I didn't even mention that yet. That's right. No Wade Barrett. Pat McAfee still on his little hiatus. Corey Graves, who has been freaking... Corey Graves, you talk about the doghouse. You talk about just eating shit. He's been down in NXT for months. And NXT has just been getting worse and worse. There was a moment where NXT was doable. Their women's division is so much fun. But there's so many people come. LFG, the winners of LFG are over there. It's just, what? And they're winning matches. You got... like not just Dark State, but there's another tag team that showed up. They look like they're barely 19, 20 years old. I'd be like, who are you? They just have so many people coming in that have no star look, no star power, no amount of developmental or promo class is going to help them. It just NXT got weird, man. They got off track. They got really off track. So anyway, Corey Graves is down there just trying to get back to the main roster, and the only thing he can hope on is that Pat McAfee doesn't want to work a certain Monday, and that's what we got. McAfee is off again. Wade Barrett, for some reason, couldn't make it, and they called over Corey Graves. So Corey got to be on Monday Night Raw, man. That's just a wild scenario. Anyway, when we come back from commercial after Liv Morgan rolled out, docs check on her, we go to commercial, we come back, Corey Graves, Michael Cole, and they're treating this like it's it's a real sitch. Liv Morgan, match stop, dislocated shoulder, keep you updated. They went to like a video package, CM Punk, Jonathan Cena, I believe, from SmackDown, something like that. So they tried to fill up the time, but they didn't try to shy away from it. They really made it a point to say, yeah, let that, what you saw, not storyline, Liv dislocated her shoulder. But just what are the chances, right? For Zoe and Liv back to back. And the common denominator is Kairi. I mean, Kairi is just like talking trash to, who was it? Somebody she threw on the outside, Raquel Rodriguez, something like that. Rhea Ripley, maybe. She turns around. It was in their Fatal 4. Or Triple Threat, what was it? I don't even know what. It was a multi-person schmoz. Kairi turns around and sees a flying Zoe Stark, and Zoe was so far away, or Kairi was so far away, but she's hit this before. So Zoe knew how far she was. She still thought she could do it. And she snapped her leg back. Kairi just turned around and watched her snap her leg. It was like this person's coming at you with a drop kick, and there was like a force field around Kairi protecting her. And she was like, nope. Pew! And Zoe just lands and snaps her leg. And then last night, and that was Kairi. Kairi took a lot of heat for that. And then last night, she takes down Liv Morgan, and Liv pops her shoulder out of socket. And that was not Kairi's fault. Routine, simplistic takedown, just a freak accident. Can't even blame Liv for just landing wrong. She landed on her elbows. We see that a million times. You just have to land on the right, the perfect time. I remember back in football, I snapped my elbow in half just on a simplistic tackle. And it was my landing. I extended my arm at the right juncture of impact, and my elbow snapped in half. Not just dislocated, but actually fractured a big piece of the bone as well. So I double-deckered it. Dislocation with a fracture. Oh, my arm was snapped back, brah. Snapped. So we snapped it back. Everybody's like, what the That's the first instinct, though. If you're an athlete, if you're a real badass, right, you take your and you snap it back. So they think that I snapped a little bit more bone off when I did that, but it is what it is. We're good to go. Now I got like a Lex Luger bionic elbow. I can literally just knock mofos out with my elbow alone. Remember Lex Luger could do that because he's got a plate in his elbow? I don't got a plate, but for some reason, man, it got more diesel. So it ended up working for the best. But my point is, it's sometimes it's just how you land, man. And that's what happened. I'm sure Kairi's going to take a lot of heat for it, unfortunately. But wasn't her fault. Simplistic takedown. But damn, at this point, you got to figure there's some mojo. So if you're a wrestler, if you're a WWE, if you're in the women's locker room and you're seeing the match slate and you see that you're about to take on Kairi, try to get out of that match. Wish Kairi all the best, right? Give her a little bit of flowers. Hey, you go get him, champ. But don't wrestle Kairi right now. Because, again, not her fault, but there's some mojo force field right now. And the wrestling world does not want Kairi touched. Little 5'1", buck 15-pound Kairi, man. Putting people on the shelf. We wish Liv all the best, just like Zoe. Freak accident, you never want to see that. Especially with the momentum that Liv has right now. Starting the show. Championship on her shoulder. About to have this big match with the Bellas. And a big match with Io for the championship. Wonder if they were going to put it on her, by the way. That would have been interesting. She's dropping the tag titles, but she gets the championship. Company was high on her. Done. Interesting, man. But we wish Liv all the best. Kairi the Killer. Right? You have her coming down that aisle with some swag from here. You play into this. Then we had it. This is worth. I don't mention too many backstage segments in reviews because it's just filler. Let's be honest, guys. Even with good performances, it's filler. But a very good Karrion Kross backstage segment with Sami Zayn. And it just reminds you, give this guy the ball, man. Give him the ball, Karrion Kross. He's so good. He's so good. I remember back in NXT, he was in this feud with, I think it was Adam Cole, and they were doing a promo, and Adam Cole said something about, like, Karrion is only good because he's got the bells and whistles, the smoke and mirrors, the theme music, he's got Scarlet, the cool character, but when the bell rings, I never saw that, man. I like Karrion. I think Karrion is fine, and the bells and whistles suit him. I mean, you could have said that Mark Calloway was nothing without all the Undertaker, smoke and mirrors, and bells and whistles. You could have said that. As time went on and Calloway got the confidence as the you started to see Calloway do a lot of awesome shit, and he just got better as time went on. I think that had a lot to do with confidence, self-esteem, and such. But Mark Calloway from WCW, you know what I mean? A lot of people would tell you they were probably changing the channel or taking a nap during a Calloway match. Some people, it just fits. Smoke and mirrors, the bells and whistles are on them for a reason. It fits. But Karrion can go in the ring, man. So I never understood those critiques of Karrion Kross. And then you see him in this backstage segment and the believability when he's cutting this promo on Sami Zayn and the realism. And it's like, why are we not seeing more Karrion Kross? And then you remember quickly who's running this thing, and you're not surprised anymore. But it's a shame that Karrion Kross is this good, but you only get it for about 30 seconds. Kind of what you said about R-Truth for so long, right? The one thing on a 3-hour show that will make you laugh even just a little bit, R-Truth. Or the one thing that would make you feel something was R-Truth, and they just don't look at him as anything viable. He's just a sideshow act. You know, Karrion Kross, what is he doing? For months, he's been just walking around catering. Shinsuke Nakamura type booking, right? Every time somebody's cutting a promo on SmackDown, there's Nakamura 60 feet in the background just kind of looking on. Oh, is that a camera? Are they doing a live interview? Weird booking. Weird, but it's just Helmsley not having anything. Oh, just keep waiting. Just keep waiting. A few more weeks, a few more months, we'll have something. But for now, we'll make you relevant by just, keep doing your backstage stuff. Oh, one day we'll have something for you. Okay. So they put that in this promo, too. Sami Zayn is like, you're just a coward. You're one of those dudes that just walks around backstage trying to get in on other people's things because you won't go out there and do it yourself. So I thought Samuel was good in this as well. But Karrion Kross, man, what a standout. And then we went into the main event. This was a fatal 4-way for the King of the Ring tournament. Jason Yeaterman versus Rusev Crush versus Sheamus fella versus Bronson Reed. They planted, for Uso's entrance, they planted like 30. They're out of control with his entrances, man. It's just obnoxious. It's nauseating. So now they're literally planting like 30 kids around him to start. And the cameraman cuts a cue, or maybe there's a producer right next to the and they cut the cue. So when we start the camera on Jey Uso in the corridors of Section 305, the kids are already yeeting, right? And you can see how like planted and forced it is because a lot of them are off cue, a little late. So when we get to Jey Uso in the corridor, the kids are like, yeet, yeet, yeet. And they're looking at the cameraman. Are we doing it right? Yeet, yeet. It's so bad, guys. And then Jey starts moving. Then he gets to they have planted kids, right? And he's told every time you see a kid, stop, yeet with them, pick up a baby or two. And that's what he does. So he stops at the first kid, and that kid has a foam finger yeet now. Now they're selling foam fingers. The shirts didn't make them what they were hoping for. Now they're going to try to sell some money with yeet foam fingers. So this kid's yeeting with his foam finger, and Jay's high-fiving foam fingers. Then he stops at the next kid, picks him up, right? It's a little youngster, picks him up, starts yeeting with the kid and his, with the babies. For 10 minutes. It's nauseating. I understand. Dude, if you want to book a character to kids, book a cartoon character for kids. You got to remember, over 70% of your audience is over 18. We're doing this every week. This is just watching say you got a favorite television show, but every week, 5 minutes out of that show, or 10 minutes out of that show every week is the same segment of the show, the same part of a show. It's on repeat every week. So you're taking 10 minutes out of your fucking what's supposed to be a new show every week, and you're just watching the same thing you see every single week. You'd be pissed off. That's what we're seeing. Every single Monday night, we just see the same thing in this entrance. It takes as long as like Roman Reigns, but Jason Uso isn't Roman Reigns. No matter how much he tries to be, no matter how much they try to knock people out with Roman's spear, because Jey Uso jacked his spear, he's not Roman. You could put world titles on him and have him spear people and give him 10-minute entrances. He's not Roman Reigns. He's Jason Uso. And to see just 10 minutes of him dancing with kids, we don't want to watch 10 minutes of a Chuck E. Cheese party. And now they're getting really obnoxious with it. Even more kids, planting more kids, and the foam fingers, and the glasses, and the holding babies, and patting kids on the head. Stop. It's obnoxious. Man, even Bret Hart just came down and he put glasses on a kid's fucking dome piece. That was it. And then we moved on. Hulk Hogan said, hey, drink your milk, take some vitamins, Hulk up in the gym or whatever he said, get a good night's sleep. Hulk Hogan said some things, but then he went to the ring, fucking hulked up and knocked people out with a leg drop. I am so done with the Jason. At least the first step was taken last week to take the title off of him. That is good. But I just feel like they went even extra on the entrance now. I understand people are going to show up because they spent so much money. They want to yeet and dance and participate. You got to remember, your audience at home is not liking it, and that's why your numbers are going backwards. I say this all the time. That's part of the reason I believe they took the title off of Uso, because they know it's not working with viewers that are watching outside the arena. So now you took the title, that's the start. Chop down these entrances, man. Cut down on the planted kids. That is nauseating. It looks so forced. You could totally tell the producers telling them, ready? Yeet. You could tell these kids are planted because why are they in the middle of the stairwells? And then you wonder why grown-ups can't take Jason Uso seriously. You turn him into a fucking Pee Wee Herman. You turn him into a Ron McDonald. You turn him into a Mr. Rogers. You turn him into a fucking Saturday morning Sesame Street character. If you make somebody just made for kids, man, don't be shocked when everybody else is like, get this over with. That entrance, wow, that was bad. And then you go over to Rusev, Sheamus, Bronson Reed's entrance. He comes out, Paul Heyman with a briefcase. It's not even Bronson Reed's briefcase. Why is Paul? You can leave that giant, stupid-looking thing backstage. Bronson doesn't hold the contract, but they want Bronson to get a little bit of rub. You got Paul, you got the Money in the Bank. They want you to see the briefcase and think Bronson is the owner of it. No. He knows somebody who is. He's associated with Sethington. They're not in a group because they don't have a name. They don't have distinctive group theme music. Nothing makes them a group. Nothing. Paul Heyman has been devalued with this group of strays. Paul Heyman is devalued, man. I see Paul Heyman coming out with Bronson and he's trying. Paul's looking at Bronson and he's trying to look at him like he would Brock or Roman, and it just doesn't work. Even Paul has to kind of look away. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It works even less with Braun Breaker and even less with Sethington. Sethington doesn't even need a mouthpiece. Anyway. These four lock it up. I think we all knew the outcome, right? Yeaterman. And that's what happened. Uso pins Bronson Reed with help from everybody. Sami Zayn was out there. Penta was out there. LA Knight was out there. LA Knight gave the final push to Bronson and then a couple of splashes. Pins Bronson Reed. So, briefcase, Paul Heyman, this new group, and Bronson Reed is still looking up at the lights from a simplistic push from LA Knight and just two splashes. That's it. Meanwhile, Jey Uso was in a Gunther choke. His move is the choke. And Jey Uso isn't tapping out. He's taking a nap. He's like, no thanks. I'm not tapping out. 8 minutes. He looked like a superhero. But he's Jey Uso. Why are you booking Jey Uso to be like the most superhuman wrestler we've ever seen with Undertaker capabilities? Uso can take 16 finishers and he won't. 16 Gunther bombs. 12 crossroads. He'll kick out. Bronson Reed gets pushed and two splashes from a guy half his side, Jason Uso. And that's what makes Bronson look up at the lights. That's not good booking at all, folks. That's bad. Jason Uso wins this match. Again, everybody was out there. It doesn't even matter if you're not on Raw or you are on Raw. It doesn't matter. Because Sethington came out there pissed off because one of his guys already is losing. And then Cody Rhodes' music hits. Cody comes out. SmackDown's Cody. We just saw SmackDown's LA Knight. SmackDown's general manager was running. Adam Pearce couldn't make it, so they brought in SmackDown's Nick Aldis. The pop that Cody got next. Now that is what I mean, right? Jason Uso, everyone yeet. Yeah, yeet. But then when the bell rings, that's it. That's it. Now we got this new, every time he does a move, now he yeet. Every super kick, which is 1,000 a match. Yeet, yeet, yeet. Other than, it's not a genuine, like, you give a crap about what Uso's doing. With Cody, it's a different type of pop. That music hit, and there was like an audible, whoa. Not whoa. That too. But Cody is a star. That's why when people go, Cody's got to turn heel, or Cody needs to turn heel. No, he doesn't. What are you talking about? Cody, you don't even have to be a big Cody fan. Right? I'm not some big, huge Cody supporter, but I'll be the first to tell you, he's a legit face. He makes legit money for that company. He doesn't need 4 letters, 1 word, This dude collects more merchandise money, and that company gets more merchandise money from his shirts than the Yeet Master. That's truth. Most days, most weeks out of the time. Cody Rhodes is legit. Listen to those reactions. And when the bell rings, listen and watch those reactions. That's a star. So Cody, man, Wisconsin was very happy to see Cody Rhodes. So him and Seth just stare at each other, and Seth walks off. Cody turns at Jason Uso, and they shake hands in mutual respect. We go off the air with Paul Levesque McMahon and Lee Fittings credits. Good night, everybody. Not a cliffhanger. A shitty finish. Mutual respect. Yeaterman versus Cody in a mutual respect King of the Ring match next week. Okay. But I don't mind the overbooking of this, right? A lot of wrestlers out there to get the crowd like reacting, right? It's a powerful grand finale type finish, right? Here's Penta, there's LA Knight, there's Cody, there's Sammy, even Seth is coming down. Everybody's out there. Braun Breaker spearing people. You just had one wrestler after the other to end the show. So, that's smoke and mirrors, but I don't mind overbooking. But it's an easy way to try to get a reaction from a crowd. Just send 10 people out there at the finish. So, but I don't mind it. At least it was interesting. Now, what does it lead to? Yeaterman versus Cody. Who do you have win this, man? I don't see Cody. I don't care how. I don't see Cody losing to Yeaterman unless they want to give him another consolation prize, get him to that final. I don't see it, man. You just got to, if you truly want Yeaterman to get over with most of the crowd, you got to be more believable. That's all we're asking. Be more believable. First, stop with the kid shit too much. Like we understand you're booking him for kids. That's obvious. If it wasn't last night, it became. That's obvious. But can you cut that a little bit? Make it a little more realistic. Like, for instance, have him tap out if he's in a Gunther choke in 3 or 4 minutes. Not just for 8 minutes, be like, this is it. If he takes a Crossroads or a Gunther bomb, have him get pinned. Not kicking out of the 4 Crossroads and 6 Gunther bombs and things like that. We're not believing that. So having him beat Cody Rhodes, you talk about not realistic, it's not. But then how do you have Yeaterman lose that matchup? You just had him lose the title last week. He loses this big matchup here. You're going to really set Rikishi, Papa Yeet, into frenzy mode. You think he was furious at H when he dropped the title. Rikishi gonna be super pissed at Hunter Helmsley if he loses against Cody. I don't know. I really don't care who they put this stupid crown and scepter and robe on at the King of the Ring. I really don't. I really don't, because this is a consolation prize to Money in the Bank. LA Knight should have won Money in the Bank and be done with it. Now everybody was like, LA Knight's going to win King of the Ring. He couldn't even get out that first round. So it doesn't matter who walks over. And with all the advertisement, that crown that they put on his head is probably going to say Burger King in the front. It's going to be the Burger King King of the Ring crown. The Burger crown. And I'm not joking. They did it with the briefcase, man. They put Cash App on the Money in the Bank. Get it? Cash App, Money in the Bank. They did it. They put Slim Jim on a table so that Tessa Torre could say, whoa, a lot of beef just went through the table. Get it? Slim Jim. You think they're not going to have Burger King in front of the crown, man? They are. So no, maybe I don't want to see Cody even have. I don't even want to see Jason Uso wearing a Burger King crown. Anyway, that was Monday Night Raw 6/16/25. It was, Watchable at best is what I'm giving you. No, I'm not saying this was a good show, man. I don't care. If that's what you think I was going to say, I'm not. I just went over it, guys. AJ Styles versus McDonald's. What? What am I praising there? Styles and McDonald's. Even if Liv didn't get hurt. Liv Morgan versus Kairi. Okay? These are house show matches at best. I wouldn't need to spend 3 hours prime time watching this. A couple of schmaz tournament matches. A women's schmaz and a men's schmaz. All right. That's all we see these days is triple threats and fatal four ways. Billy Goldberg came back. Again. What an amazing show. That's what happened, guys. I'm just trying to be real with you, as always. You know, watchable at best is what I'll give this show. Far from good. It needs to be a full television show that excites you and gets you thinking and has cliffhangers and stories that were just like, damn, I can't see what happens next. We don't get that, and you know it. But there was at least newsworthy stories to come out of this, right? There's at least some thinking going, hey, I wonder how they are going to do, even though Helmsley has no clue what he's going to do next. But at least we can say, hey, it's interesting because this can't happen or this has to happen. So at least we have some of those scenarios. But yeah, this show needs so much help. And because of that, you're not going to see the number go up by much. Now, when it comes out, it's always on a 7-day delay for Netflix. You're not going to see a big improvement on the number. It might see a slight uptick because you have a lot of events coming up. They're trying to build, or people believe they're trying to build toward a lot. So you might see a little uptick, but it ain't going to be big because the shows are not good enough to keep the viewers' interest. And that's what sucks, and that's what needs to change. You came here for a reason because you know you're getting the full amplified honesty on these shows, and I thank you for that very much. Until next time, and there will be that next time, BC in the unit, we're saying check you. Unit, salute.